It's time for the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Welcome to the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where we take old and new full stories from Comicstorian and put them here to give you a better viewing experience. Today we are doing the out-of-continuity, fun crossover story, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, by Brian Buccellato. I hope you enjoy.
Clark and Lois sit across from each other on the rooftop of the Daily Planet. The sun is setting in the distance as they talk about their relationship, about how this was the first place that they met. "I don't think I was ready for you, Clark or Superman," Lois says with a smile. Clark smiles back and gets down on one knee. "How about now?" he says quietly. They both pause, though, as the buildings begin to shake. But it's not just the Daily Planet. The entire city is shaking. Clark looks to the bay as something massive breaks through the water, and Godzilla rears its massive head up, surveying Metropolis with murderous intent. 12 hours earlier, Flash and Green Lantern watched the Justice League Watchtower monitors, marveling at Superman as he flies around the world trying to save everyone. It's like he literally is trying to save the world all at once, Hal notes. Flash nods, pointing out that this level of effort isn't sustainable, even for Superman. They question why the Man of Steel is even doing this. Well, he's going to ask Lois to marry him, Supergirl answers as she walks into the room. And then he's going on his first vacation ever? She continues with a smile. Hal and Barry are shocked, but also a little hurt that Superman had to ask his cousin to fill them in. Because what is the Justice League without a mega powerful Kryptonian up its sleeve? Hal points out, admitting that he's jealous. Supergirl looks back from the screens, pointing out that Superman is about to fight Titano. Doesn't he shoot kryptonite lasers from his eyes? Flash points out, and Hal nods, pointing as the giant ape fires a green blast at Superman. "We should go give him a hand." Flash nods, disappearing in a flash of super speed. Hal then turns to Supergirl. "Without powers, I could totally beat him," he says, and in moments the Flash arrives at the battle, just as Superman is wrapping things up. "Oh, hi, Flash. Is everything okay?" he asks as he lifts the giant ape and flies him towards Stryker Island. They land at the prison where they're joined by Wonder Woman and Hal Jordan, and everyone congratulates Superman on his news, pointing out that he and Lois belong together. Meanwhile, at the hidden base of the Legion of Doom, the group of villains watch as Superman once again defeats their schemes. "I'm sick of it! I say we take the fight to them," Black Adam growls, and the rest of the team nods, pointing out that they don't have a plan, and they begin to bicker amongst themselves. "Maybe the Justice League always wins because they get along," Toyman points out, but Lex Luthor interrupts the arguments, explaining that he does in fact have a plan. He turns towards his helicopter, motioning them along. "I'll fill you in on the way. Let's go, and dress warmly." In short order, the helicopter arrives at the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic Circle, the group of villains surveying the fortress from the air. It's impossible to find. It took 3 years of satellite tracking data and the greatest criminal minds in history to locate Superman's home. Lex tells his team, and he brings the team to the massive door with no knob. Using their combined strength, they do manage to open it though. Inside, the criminals marvel at the many wonders that Superman keeps within the fortress, but Lex orders them not to touch anything. "We're here for two things, the Mother Box and Orion's sled. Touch nothing else. There will be plenty of time to investigate the spoils of war later." As they move through the treasures, the Toyman can't help himself reaching out for a strange red crystal. He grasps it in his hands. "So beautiful," he whispers, and the others turn to him in shock. "I'm sorry, what?" Toyman asks in surprise as the Legion is staring at him. Meanwhile, back at Clark Kent's apartment, the Man of Steel is showing Bruce his engagement ring as the two are discussing the possible issues of Superman marrying someone. But they're interrupted as Clark turns to the sound of an alarm at the fortress. He whirls to change into Superman, but Kara's voice comes over the team comms. "Tell Cal to stay put, here in the night off," she informs Bruce. "I got this," she says with a smile as she and the rest of the League stroll into the fortress. The Legion are now all yelling at Toyman, but are interrupted as the Justice League rush into the room and join them in battle. Flash zipping by, grabbing Orion's sled from Lex's hands, but he's then stopped by Captain Cold's freeze ray. Lex grabs a hold of the sled and the Mother Box and prepares to activate them. Meanwhile, Toyman whirls, throwing an explosive doll at Hawkgirl, but the bomb bounces off of her mace, hitting the sled. The explosion activates the sled, sending a pulse through the room. Hal yells for his team to gather up and throws a green shield to protect them. But when the smoke clears, the League is shocked to find that the Legion of Doom has disappeared. The Mother Box took them, Supergirl notes, and Hal comments as he waves the smoke away. Yeah, but where did they go? Meanwhile, the Legion has found themselves in a strange jungle. Where are we? Cold asks. Giganta embiggens herself, staring off in the distance. There's a large structure about a quarter mile from here, she says. So Lex nods, leading them off into the woods. Fair warning. I'm getting a lot of heat signatures. This forest is teeming with life, Black Manta warns. The group moves through the woods, with the trees suddenly parting as a massive skull-faced lizard pushes through, roaring at them. The villains freeze in shock, but are rescued as a massive ape leaps out, attacking the lizard. Roaring in anger, the rest of the Legion turn to run as Grodd stares in awe. An ape? God? Inside the base, the Legion discovers the monitoring equipment that surveys several massive kaiju. They look at one of the monitors and watch as Grodd approaches King Kong. Mighty ape, we are kindred spirits, are we not? Grodd asks as he bows before Kong. The rest of the team shocked, but it is Toyman who sees the possibilities of the Titans. And then, Toyman becomes angry. Shut up! I know exactly what I'm saying, you basic-minded fools. Don't you see the big picture? These Titans are perfect for us. They're the ultimate toys! You wanted a way to stop the Justice League once and for all? This is it! He snaps, and everyone looks at him for a moment. Allowing you into the Legion was my biggest mistake, Lex finally says, turning away, ordering the team to try and find them a way home. Left alone, Toyman begins to hold the red crystal that he took from the Fortress of Solitude. I hate them so much. I wish I could show them. Take all these toys back to play with the Justice League. Oh, how I wish. As he whispers those words, the crystal begins to glow and the red light begins to fill the monitoring station. We now cut to the present day. Godzilla rises out of Metropolis Bay, Superman leaping from the rooftop to the Daily Planet, flying through the air to meet the massive Titan. Superman swoops forward, floating to a stop before the mighty Godzilla. I don't know if you can understand me, but your presence is a danger to the people of Metropolis. So let's take whatever this is somewhere else. The great Titan merely glares at him before opening its mouth, a deep blue beginning to well in its eyes and its throat. But Superman suddenly launches forward, punching the Titan, knocking it back. I warned you, big guy. Now I really need to get you out of the city, Superman says as he launches forward, but Godzilla moves with amazing speed, swatting the Man of Steel aside with its tail. He gets knocked across the city, thrown through several buildings until he finally comes to a stop. Sorry about that, is anyone hurt? He asks a stunned office. But in a blur of red and lightning, the Flash is suddenly standing by Superman's side as the last son of Krypton gets to his feet. The rest of the team is on the way. That's a really big thing out there, Superman. Superman nods, launching himself back at the Titan, as Flash tries to negotiate where to bring the survivors. Meanwhile, the rest of the Justice League is flying towards the city, having just left the Fortress of Solitude. But Batman comes across the League comms, informing them that Metropolis isn't the only city under attack. Massive creatures have been spotted in Central City, Gotham, and Themyscira. He directs the teams to different locations. Hawkgirl will continue going to Metropolis, while Flash, Green Lantern, and Supergirl will speed towards Central City. Wonder Woman and Green Arrow are going to head to Themyscira. Batman then launches the Batwing, informing the team, Gotham is under control. The rest of the Bat family chime in as they are racing across the city, not overly worried about the giant bat monster they're about to fight. I'll join you. I'm heading to Gotham City now, Cyborg says, rocketing across the sky. Black Canary revs her motorcycle's engine as she speeds across the bridge into the city. Count me in, 3 minutes out, she informs the Dark Knight. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman and Green Arrow are flying over the ocean towards the Amazon's home. But they look down and are surprised to see a strange island where there shouldn't be one. The heroes float down and they notice the prehistoric plant life. Ominous. Could it have something to do with the giant monsters? Green Arrow asks, smiling. And he tells Wonder Woman that she'll have to deal with the giant monster without him. I don't know that I'll be able to come back to you, Diana points out, but Ollie shrugs. It's fine. Not my first deserted island. Meanwhile, in the secret base of the Legion of Doom, Black Manta and Cheetah are trying to monitor the situation after they've all reappeared back in the real world. They discuss how they were all wished to different parts of the world by Toyman. And Black Manta explains that Toyman stole the Dreamstone from the Fortress of Solitude, which is how they all appeared here alongside the monsters. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Cheetah wonders. But over in Lex Corp, Lex Luthor awakens with a start as Mercy rushes in his office. Lex, when did you arrive? She asks as she rushes to his side. Lex, still groggy, looks out the window to see Superman fighting against Godzilla. Toyman, Lex hisses as he narrows his eyes, looking at Mercy, ordering her down into the bunker. I need a full download of what's happening out there. Meanwhile, back in the city, Superman and Hawkgirl are still fighting against the massive creature. She swoops in, smashing it with her mace, but the mighty Titan barely flinches. Wow, that was an A swing. Tough lizard, Hawkgirl says to Superman. Back in Gotham City, the great Bat Titan is swooping down, but Batwoman has arrived in her own jet and she begins to open fire. As Kate and Batman swoop around it in their jets, they continue to blast the creature. The Bat Titan whirling in the air, firing a sonic blast at the twin jets, damaging several buildings, sending debris down to the streets. Sonic-based monster. That's the information that we need. We can lure it away from the city. Batman snaps over the radio as he dodges another blast. He orders the team to help the civilians on the street while he and Batwoman continue to fight the monster in the air. But Red Hood isn't listening. Sitting up in a nearby building, he lines up a shot with a very big sniper rifle. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not one of your birds you can boss around. I'm taking the shot. You know I can do it. The rest of the Bat family rushes towards Red Hood. They order him not to open fire, but Jason ignores them, pulling the trigger. Nighty-night, monster. He quips. The round speeds through the air, and it hits the monster directly in its massive eye. It bellows in pain. It whirls around, staring at the Red Hood, and then it fires another sonic screech, destroying the building that Jason is crouched on. He manages to leap away just in time, but the debris crumbles towards the civilians below. There's too many people! Batgirl shouts out, so Nightwing nods as he rushes forward. Save as many as you can! But that's when there's a rev of a motorcycle and Black Canary appears, blasting the debris aside with her canary cry. Perfect timing, Batgirl says with a smile, and everyone whirls on Jason, yelling at him for being reckless, but he brushes it off, with Batgirl walking up, knocking him out with a single punch. Needed to be done, she says, looking at the family. Batman gets back on the comms. Team, if you're finished horsing around, he begins to say, and at that moment, Cyborg arrives, with Batman directing them all to create a sonic frequency weapon using Cyborg's tech and Canary's power. Batman continues to distract the creature while the team works, until Batwoman flies through the air with Black Canary and the weapon strapped to the back of her jet. Batman gets the creature's attention with another missile strike, but that's when the monster blasts him with its sonic screech. The Batwing is being damaged and destroyed, so he ejects, parachuting to the city below. Batwoman then barrels her jet straight at the creature, and Canary screeches into the sonic amplifier that Cyborg made. The blast hits the monster, knocking it unconscious. It then begins to fall out of the sky, slamming into Gotham City Park. Meanwhile, Batman walks away from the carnage like a badass, not even looking back. Well done, everyone, he growls over the comms. But meanwhile, in Metropolis, Superman and Hawkgirl continue their fight. They don't seem to be having any effect on Godzilla, so Hawkgirl goes in for another strike, but at that moment, Godzilla takes her out with a swipe of his massive claw. She tumbles through the air, but there's a crack of lightning as Shazam flies out of the air, catching her. Not going well, I take it? He says with a smile. Superman thanks his friend and flies up to punch Godzilla in the jaw with all of his strength. But Godzilla merely glares at the heroes. That doesn't look good, Shazam notes as Godzilla's eyes and mouth begin to glow. A massive energy blast erupting from the Titan's mouth, but Superman meets it with a blast of heat vision, and a battle of energy begins, going back and forth. But Shazam knows that Superman can't last forever. He flies towards the Titan, an idea springing into his head. He lands on Godzilla's head and speaks the magic word, Shazam! Magic lightning leaps out of the sky, striking Godzilla, stunning the creature for mere seconds. But now it's Billy Batson, the small child, falling out of the sky. Superman swoops in, grabbing the kid. That was awesome! He shouts with joy, but Superman shakes his head. No, it was too risky. Don't ever do that again. Both heroes then look back, though, realizing Godzilla has already recovered. The monster opens its mouth, firing another blast. Superman shields Billy from the attack, but the blast knocks them both out of the sky. They plummet to the city below, with Superman's body smoking from the radioactive energy. Billy looks up as Godzilla begins to stomp forward. He reaches out, trying to rouse the Man of Steel. Superman, you gotta wake up! He shouts. The Flash dashes through Central City, lightning trailing behind him as he runs across the ocean towards Iron Heights. The prison island is wrapped up in a strange fog, with massive spider legs reaching down and striding across the land. He comes to a stop as he breaks through the fog, staring up in shock at the giant Cthulhian crab that stands over the prison. Oh wow, this definitely puts me over the top. Now I've seen it all, the Flash whispers as he runs inside of the prison, where the escaped supercriminals have begun to riot. Hi guys, this is kind of an emergency situation. If you'll all kindly follow me back to your cells, the Flash says as he runs past everyone, but he's beginning to slow down from the giant monster's fog. The villains manage to hit him, and they bring him down. They crowd around the Flash, starting to pummel him, when suddenly there's a gust of wind in the prison blowing the fog away, and the prisoners look around in fear. Superman? Someone shouts, but they look up to see Supergirl floating above them. Flash springs to his feet, his speed returning as he quickly begins to knock out the villains. Thanks for clearing the smog, Supergirl, he shouts, and Supergirl nods, flying towards the Cthulhian crab. Anytime, you wrangle the convicts and I'll deal with the crab monster, she shouts. But she isn't alone as a green light quickly appears and flies towards the monster. I've got your back, Supergirl, Hal yells, and the two barrel towards the monster, but Supergirl suddenly stops short, her eyes widening. I can't hear his heartbeat. I can always hear Superman's heartbeat, but it's stopped, she gasps. Hal looks at her in shock. Superman? There's no way. That means... He begins to say, but Supergirl suddenly flies away, leaving him alone to face the monster. Back in Metropolis, Billy Batson kneels over the body of Superman as Godzilla stomps towards them, roaring. But a large shadow then appears over the young hero's head. Hang on, I'm coming! Atom Smasher shouts as he charges towards Godzilla, grabbing the monster's leg, tripping it, pushing it to the ground. Hawkgirl awakens to find the hero trying to hold the monster off, flying down to Billy and Superman. They struggle to drag Superman away, but Atom Smasher can't hold off Godzilla, and the monster bites him in the neck, throwing him to the ground. As Hawkgirl continues to move, Billy tells her to go. I'll distract it! Get Superman out of here! He tells her. The monster gets closer, and Billy says the magic word, Shazam! Allowing the magical lightning to arc through the creature. Shazam flies up, promising to lead the monster out of the city, his fist connecting with Godzilla's head, but he isn't alone. Supergirl is there, joining him in the blow, knocking Godzilla back. The Great Titan stumbles backwards, slamming into several buildings. Supergirl leaves him flying down to Superman's body. She helps Hawkgirl lift him up and asks if she can take him to the Fortress of Solitude. When they look back up, they're shocked to see that Godzilla is actually following Shazam out of the city. Their comms then come alive again, and Flash asks for assistance from Iron Heights, where he is being defeated by the supervillains and Hal is struggling against the giant crab monster. Nearby, members of the Legion of Doom have now arrived, led by Captain Cold. I want to rescue the other rogues, but we should start focusing on finding Toyman. He started this. Cheetah points out as the villains stalk towards the prison. But Black Manta waves her off, explaining that he's already put out a contract with Deathstroke. We should be able to find Toyman without a problem. So while he's fetching Toyman for us, we strengthen our numbers and let the Justice League deal with the monsters. Manta explains. Captain Cold nods, aiming his cold gun, freezing Flash with a well-aimed blast. Above them, Hal Jordan is dodging another tentacle and looks down in horror at his friend being frozen. Meanwhile, back at Themyscira, both Wonder Woman and Donna Troy have arrived to save their sisters as a great mammoth creature walks from the ocean towards their home. But both Amazon warriors manage to wrap up their lassos around the creature's massive neck, allowing them to speak with it. Beast, we are not a threat to you. We only want to stop you from hurting our people, Diana says to the creature, and Donna looks down in amazement. I can feel its agitation waning, she says, but the monster suddenly shakes its great head, knocking the Amazons loose. They land on the ground and look up to see the mammoth turning around and walking back towards the ocean. Is it leaving? Donna questions, but Wonder Woman shakes her head. Something is calling it, she whispers. Back at Iron Heights, Hal is still wrestling with the Cthulhian crab, its tentacles trying to break through his green shield. Below him, the Flash is beginning to vibrate, finally breaking free of the ice, just in time to watch as the Legion of Doom members fly away in their jet. As Barry turns back to the crisis at hand, he begins to spin his arms rapidly, hitting the crab with a whirlwind blast that knocks it back and frees Hal. Thanks for the assist. Now, let's keep pressing this thing, Hal shouts, and both heroes are overjoyed as Supergirl returns, hitting the monster with her heat vision, driving it back to the ocean. What happened to Superman? Hal asks, and Kara shakes her head. He's down. Maybe for good. Meanwhile, on Skull Island, Green Arrow is on his own, rushing through the forest as Kong is fighting against several large beasts. Anyone out there? It's Oliver. Over, Oliver says on the radio while Cyborg gets back to him asking for a situation report. Well, if I'm being honest, I could use some help on this Monster Island thing, Oliver shouts as he runs through the woods, avoiding a stampede of creatures trying to get away from Kong's fight. He fires a grappling arrow, pulling himself into a tree, but Kong slams a lizard bat creature into the ground, shaking him loose. Oliver struggles to his feet and sees Kong staring him down. Hi? He calls out, and a voice yells from above. Hey, up here! I mean you no harm, but I must ask you to back away from my friend, Supergirl says. Kong seems entranced by the blonde heroine, and he reaches a hand out for her, but she smacks him aside, not in the mood to play. I warned you, ape, she snaps. Kong bellows at her, pounding his chest. Meanwhile, Shazam has arrived in Gotham, telling the heroes the bad news about Superman. Superman is dead, he whispers. The others stare at each other in shock, with Cyborg questioning whether they should tell Lois. No, he's not dead, he's not! Batman snaps at them. Nobody says a word about this to Lois, not until I see Clark. Meanwhile, over in the desert, a strange device is beeping. Lex Luthor reaches out a hand and uncovers a massive ball with a glowing red eye. He smiles as he stares at the beeping device. Here you are, he says to himself. As the rest of the heroes try to repair the world after the Titans' attacks, Batman stands over the healing pod of Superman. I promise, I'll find a way to fix this. We need you, Batman whispers. Wonder Woman is by his side, putting a hand on his shoulder, telling him that there is nothing any of them could do. It happened too fast, she explains, but he shakes his head. He's not gone. Regardless of what the rest of the team tells him, they try to console him, but Batman pushes them away, storming out of the room. He needs time to process, Wonder Woman tells the others, but Batman calls them from the fortress's trophy room. The Dreamstone is missing. That's how they got here, he tells them, pointing out that while the Legion of Doom came for Orion's sled and the Mother Box, the Dreamstone is also missing. After the boom tube was activated, the Legion were sent to an alternate world where these titanic monsters existed, Batman says. Flash nods, remembering the Legion's arrival at Blackgate Prison. Toyman and Batman nods. Find him, and we find the Dreamstone, and then we send the monsters back. Cyborg interrupts him, though, informing the team that he has arrived where the beacon was transmitting and drawing the monsters. But it is gone. So where are the monsters? Wonder Woman questions. Cyborg informs her of the giant crab and Mammoth's locations around the world. However, based on the Metropolis monster's current trajectory, it's heading our way. Cyborg informs them. The team seems confused, sensing that Godzilla could still be coming after Clark, somehow. We have to move him somewhere that they can't get to, Batman says as he returns to Clark's chamber. Meanwhile, on Skull Island, Supergirl is staring down Kong. Yeah, how long is this staring contest gonna go on? Green Arrow calls from a nearby tree. She doesn't take her eyes off the beast. As long as it takes, she tells him. But Ollie points out that he doesn't think Kong is going to back down. So unless you can suddenly learn how to speak ape, consider this mind-numbingly a waste of time, Oliver calls out. But Supergirl shakes her head, pointing out that the ape is territorial, but it isn't like the one that attacked Kal in Metropolis. Kong's eyes go wide at the mention of Godzilla, and Kara thinks that he can understand her. That's a stretch, Ollie jokes. But Supergirl turns to him and asks that since Kong isn't currently a threat, could Ollie keep an eye on the big ape? Just be careful to stay out of his way. I need to see Kal-El. I will return, she says before flying away, leaving Oliver alone. He glances up at the giant ape. Hi, he says quietly. Kong glares at him and then lets out another roar, making Oliver throw up his hands to show that he isn't a threat. But he realizes that Kong is actually staring behind him. Ollie turns to see the approach of ninjas out of the trees. Oh, I see them. It's them you're growling at. Hang back, big guy. This is more of a me-sized problem. I'll check it out. Ollie says as he leaps down. He comes up to the forest to realize that the League of Assassin Ninjas are surrounding him. And as an assassin closes in, Oliver pulls out his bow and smiles. You waited for Supergirl to leave to act, didn't you? Doesn't matter. You're here, which means you're up to no good. Which means you're my problem, Oliver says as he leaps into the fight, ducking under the blows as he kicks and punches. He then whirls around, firing his bow again, but the assassins continue to close in on him until Kong is suddenly there, slamming his foot into the ground, causing it to shake, throwing everyone to the floor. Oliver stumbles, almost falling off the cliffside, but he manages to grab on, watching as Kong continues to swipe at the League of Assassins, throwing them away. Glancing down, Oliver sees that the League has a ship in the bay below him, so he quickly drops down and quietly lands on it. Back over at the Justice League Watchtower, Diana and Hawkgirl are watching footage of Godzilla's attack, questioning what type of energy could have hit Superman, but they're interrupted by the arrival of Hal and Lois. The team leads Lois into Superman's healing chamber. Lois leans forward, looking at the man that she loves. They said the solar array isn't healing your damaged cells. It's not going to work for me, she whispers, holding up the engagement ring that she found in his pocket when he went to fight the Titan. It's beautiful, and my answer is yes, she says with tears in her eyes. But she tells him that he has to put the ring on her finger, or she won't accept it. Hal suddenly leans into the doorway, telling her that they've received a distress call from Aquaman, and they've got to go. I'm staying right here, if that's okay. Hal nods and the team heads out, now alone. Lois looks at the footage of the attack. She keeps scanning until she comes to the footage of the Legion's attack on the Fortress of Solitude. She begins to ponder to herself as she looks at Toyman holding the Dreamstone in his hands, and then she reaches for her phone to put out a call. It's Lois. Tell me every move Lex Luthor has made in the past 24 hours. I'm looking for a red stone. Meanwhile, Lex is standing in his hidden research lab. He watches as the machines continue to build the massive Titan. Look at the innovations within this otherworldly tech. They successfully recreated the mechanized Titan, capable of defeating the greatest of monster threats. This will elevate my weapons beyond anything Lex Corp has created. Lex tells her, but Mercy still doesn't understand why Lex is rushing the development. Because of Godzilla, king of the monsters. He's an unstoppable force whose only concern is maintaining the natural order. He can't be manipulated into destroying the Justice League. And we can't wait until these Titans magically do our bidding. They need to be nudged. Meanwhile, in the deep of the ocean, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern have responded to Aquaman's distress call. As they arrive, they are shocked to find the deep-sea Titan attacking Atlantis. It's way bigger than the other ones, Hal points out. Aquaman rushes to his friend's side, asking for them to keep the monster from attacking the dome of the city. Atlantis has done nothing to challenge this sea creature. I tried communicating with it, but it only responds with rage. The heroes rush forward, trying to keep the Great Titan from advancing, unsure why it's continuing to attack Atlantis. Something must be drawing it, a beacon, like the one that called them away from the cities. Hal shouts as he hits it with a blast, but as they challenge it, it breathes a cloud of ink and lightning at them. Hal rushes forward, shielding them with a green construct, but the green construct quickly begins to crack. Cyborg suddenly breaks through their comms, warning them that something is approaching the underwater city. The heroes look up as Godzilla swims towards the Sea Titan, hitting it with a blast of atomic breath. The heroes back away as the two monsters begin to trade blows back and forth. I think we should let them sort it out, Hal tells the others, but Aquaman shakes his head, reminding them that they can't let the monsters breach the dome. You all play goalie, I'll find the beacon, Flash tells him as he swims away. The heroes swim forward, but they are dismayed to find that the monsters have no care for what's around them, as the Sea Titan is throwing Godzilla into the Great Dome, cracking it. Mara swims to Arthur's side. It's time we activated the failsafe, love, she tells him, and she points out how ineffective the superheroes are against the beasts. Your friends cannot turn the tide. They are out of their element. Activate the failsafe, she says again. Arthur ponders for a moment before finally nodding his head in agreement. You're right, we have no choice, he says before quickly swimming off. He swims into the depths, far below the city of Atlantis, where he finds a great chain. Arthur doesn't hesitate, releasing the bindings on the chain, freeing its prisoner. The great Kraken swims up, and the rest of the League are shocked by the arrival of a third Titan. No, Arthur has released our kingdom's last line of defense, the mighty Kraken, Mara tells them. Meanwhile, on the nearby Skull Island, Oliver has slipped aboard the League of Assassins ship. He avoids their patrols to find what they are smuggling away from the island, and he's shocked to find the mighty skull of a Skullcrawler. At the Justice League Watchtower, Lois Lane is looking into the view screen, begging Mercy for any info that she has on what Lex is trying to do with the Titans. He's looking for the Dreamstone. It went missing along with Toyman, and that's all I can tell you, Mercy tells her, but Lois needs more, pointing out that there is no way that Lex can control these creatures. Mercy, please. I've always protected you, and this is a bigger threat than anything we've ever seen. But Mercy stops, sighing to Lois. Is it true what they're saying about Superman? That he's dead? She asks, but Lois shakes her head, explaining that Superman is in fact badly wounded, but healing. Mercy explains that the monster that defeated Superman is known as Godzilla, and they have files from an organization known as a Monarch from the other Earth. I'll send what I have, but it's the best I can do. Lois thanks her, ending the call, and then she turns to find Kara staring at her cousin. Kara, I told Mercy Graves that Clark is not dead, but honestly, we can't tell. Is he? Lois asks, but Kara shakes her head. No, but he is dying, she admits. Meanwhile, deep beneath the ocean, the heroes watch as Atlantis' guardian, the Kraken, is launching into a battle against Godzilla and Tiamat. While Aquaman, Mera, and the Flash search for the beacon that has been drawing the Titans to the city, Wonder Woman and Green Lantern fight to protect the dome from cracking any further. Diana and Hal watch as Godzilla launches himself at Tiamat, knocking the creature towards the dome. Incoming! Diana shouts, and Hal nods, creating a giant net construct that catches the monster, allowing the Kraken to slam into Godzilla. But the fight continues, and the creatures once again slam into the dome. It's cracking! Diana shouts, but Hal is there, covering the city, trying to keep out all of the water in the ocean that would destroy it. Found it! Flash calls out as he super speed swims back over to the beacon. I'll draw them away! Go save your city! Flash tells to Aquaman and Mera as he disappears. But that's when Tiamat launches after the Flash, nearly biting him as she desperately tries to capture the beacon. But at that moment, the Kraken hits Godzilla again, beginning to drag the Titan into the depths of the trench that once housed it. Aquaman nods his approval and looks at Mera. Please lead the dome repairs. I'm going after them, Diana. I could use a hand, Arthur tells her. And the two heroes turn, swimming into the dark depths of the trench, following the massive creatures. Meanwhile, Green Arrow is still aboard the League of Assassins boat. He slips from beneath a tarp after thinking in his head everything that has gone on, and then he wonders if he said all of that out loud. He slips beneath the tarp that houses the Titan skull, thinking about how he needs to figure out what the League is doing and stop them. All kinds of thoughts running through his head about plans, ideas, and what exactly has gone on. And that's when he pulls himself out from the tarp and he finds a large group of ninjas waiting for him. Wait, I didn't just say a bunch of stuff out loud, did I? The leader shakes his head and Ollie leaps to his feet, launching into a fight. He fires arrows, he lashes out with fists and feet, but there are too many ninjas. This isn't gonna work. I can admit when I'm outnumbered, Ollie says, firing an explosive arrow and using the momentum to launch himself off the boat and into the water. New plan! Get help! Ollie thinks to himself as he watches the boat sail away in the distance. At this moment, some of the heroes are continuing their fights against the Titans, with Batman using his own plans and having gathered several allies to help him build something in Gotham. He looks over the files that Cyborg has sent him on Monarch and the rest of the Titans, with Vic voicing his concerns that no one can locate Shazam after what happened with Superman. Cyborg also points out that Supergirl has returned to Skull Island to hopefully gain Kong's support. Based on what's in those files, Kong is as close to a good guy as we're gonna find in the Titans, Cyborg admits. If we can make a 300-foot ally, I'm all for it, Batman agrees. And across the world, Supergirl has returned to Skull Island to find Grodd leading his gorilla followers to worship the mighty Kong. They kneel before him as Kong pounds his chest in response. He's not your god, and he won't be swayed by your primitive submission, Supergirl tells Grodd, but Grodd smiles at her, lifting his crown to his head, now with a kryptonite horn fixed atop it. He reaches out with his mind, taking control of Supergirl, who turns, punching Kong in the head, knocking him to the ground. Well done, Grodd says as Supergirl lands next to him, now under his complete control. Meanwhile, the Legion of Doom is still searching for Toyman, who's disappeared after watching Godzilla rise up out of the ocean in Metropolis. If he's in Metropolis, I'll find him. Deathstroke says, but the Legion's arguments are interrupted by a new signal beacon for the Titans. A new source is calling the monsters, Captain Cold says as he looks at the computers. It's calling them back to Metropolis, Black Manta notes. Meanwhile, Batman has finally gotten through to Shazam on the comms. Billy, take it from me. Punishing yourself for the bad things that happened doesn't help anyone, Batman tries to tell him. But Shazam shakes his head, explaining that he screwed up, that he is the one that got Superman killed. If the Legion of Doom hadn't started it, it wouldn't have happened. I'm gonna make them pay, Shazam tells him, as Batman realizes that he has arrived at the Legion's headquarters. But Batman orders him to stay back, to merely observe the Legion and report what they're doing. Kinda too late for that, Shazam says as he slams into the ground, landing amongst the Legion in their base. The villains all rush our hero, but Shazam seems to be holding his own when suddenly Giganta's fist comes crashing down, slamming into both Shazam and Blockbuster, bringing them down. Did Giganta just kill the Blockbuster? Penguin asks from the sidelines. Beneath the ocean, though, Hal is struggling to hold back the ocean from Atlantis, with Mara asking him to hold out just a little longer, but Hal's light has already begun to fade. He apologizes as his constructs begin to weaken, and just as he is giving out, more constructs appear. Sorry it took so long to squad up, Hal, but we got you. Jon Stewart says as he, Jessica Cruz, Guy Gardner, and Simon Baz all appear, their own willpower protecting the city. We'll hold the dome together while your people do what they need to do, Jon says to Mara, who thanks him and then turns her attention back to the trench, where her husband disappeared with the monsters. Far below, Godzilla and the Kraken continue their battle while the Great Titan is distracted. Arthur has moved to place the Kraken's chains around its foot. He leaps away as the mighty Titan realizes that he is trapped again, sending off atomic blasts in anger. Will it hold? Diana questions as they swim away, and Arthur nods. It's made of nth metal. It'll hold. Our biggest threat is off the table, Arthur says. Meanwhile, in one of his secret labs, Lex has finished the creation of his Mecha Godzilla. He stands in the cockpit preparing to activate the massive creature. How does it feel, Mr. Luthor? Mercy asks over the comms and Lex smiles. Powerful, he whispers. But Mercy has a warning. I count 4 Titans heading back our way. Mechagodzilla must have a beacon built into its system. We should locate and deactivate it. But Lex shakes his head. No, let them come. They need to learn who the true Alpha is. Lex says as the Mechagodzilla rears up. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the world, Ra's al Ghul stands ready over a massive Lazarus pit, watching as his league prepares to drop the Titan's skull into the depths. It's been 10 days since the Titans first appeared on Earth. Cyborg has gathered a large number of Earth's heroes at the Justice League Watchtower. Images of the mighty Titans appearing on the monitor screens behind him. I wish I could say the worst is behind us, but Superman is down, Supergirl is missing, and Shazam is likely a hostage to the Legion of Doom. We're no closer to finding Toyman and the Dreamstone than we were a week ago. Cyborg tells him with a sigh, but Arthur steps forward. But it's not all bad news. He explains that the repairs to the Atlantis dome are almost complete and that Godzilla is still chained within the trench, unable to break through the nth metal shackles. We haven't been able to hurt Godzilla so far, but for now, he can't hurt us either. Cyborg agrees, and Flash points at a global map, reminding everyone that the other Titans are still headed towards Metropolis. They're drawn to a mysterious signal located in the city, and it doesn't have its protector to save it anymore. This doesn't feel like much of a victory. We're gonna lose Metropolis at this rate. Green Arrow nods, pointing out that they've lost sight of Kong on Skull Island. Okay, wait, so we lost track of a 300-foot gorilla and the entire League of Assassins? Nightwing asks in shock as he turns to Batman. But everyone knows that the League will show their heads soon, as will Luthor and the Legion of Doom. Batman nods, turning to the rest of the heroes. And we'll be ready, he growls, ordering the heroes to prepare themselves for the final battle against the Titans. We're going to make our stand in Metropolis, he says as he turns, walking out of the room. But he pauses briefly to look in on Lois as she sits by Superman's side, the Man of Steel still unconscious within the solar chamber after being hit by Godzilla's breath, being taken down as he attempted to save Billy Batson, Shazam. But Lois is asleep, unaware that the Dark Knight has peeked in on her. Later, she awakens, rubbing her eyes, before glancing towards Clark. only to find the pod now empty. Elsewhere in the world, the Legion of Doom, its ranks now filled with several more villains, are preparing to join Luthor in Metropolis. It's there that he awaits the Titans' arrival, now armed with the mighty Mecha Godzilla. With Mecha Godzilla at my disposal, I am the apex titan they will bow down to, Lex promises the other villains. As the sun begins to rise over the Metropolis skyline, the Titans have arrived. But Lex stands tall in the Mecha Godzilla, prepared to fight, prepared to defend Metropolis. But he turns in surprise as another mech stomps forward. Oh, now this is interesting. Of course, Batman would build his own giant robot for a giant kaiju fight. Lex scoffs, but Batman isn't alone. The Green Lanterns of Earth are flying over his shoulder, and as Mecha Bat engages Mecha Godzilla, they form their own light construct mech. Green Lanterns assemble! Jessica Cruz shouts to her teammates. Green Lantern Robo! They all cheer. Green Robo engages the Crab Spider, while Donna and Diana leap into battle against the Behemoth, with Aquaman and Hawkgirl fighting against Tiamat. During this, Nightwing is leading the other heroes against the Legion of Doom on the ground. Twin bat planes soaring over the city, but they both suddenly transform into their own mini mechs. Those bat planes are more than meets the eye, as they open fire on Tiamat to help Hawkgirl and Aquaman from being eaten. Bullseye! Jason shouts as he fires out of the mech, but suddenly there's a red streak and Donna is knocked out of the sky by a powerful Kryptonian punch. Wonder Woman looks up in shock as Kara, aka Supergirl, prepares her next attack. Kara, what's gotten into you? Diana demands. But the ground shakes as Kong now arrives, controlled by Gorilla Grodd. Grodd, the villain growls, wearing his Kryptonian-tipped crown. At Grodd's direction, Kong beats his chest, rushing at the Green Robo. Wait, the Monarch files said that Kong's supposed to be on our side, Hal points out, but John nods, motioning to Kara. So is Supergirl. I'm beginning to think they switched sides. Green Robo delivers several punches to Kong's face, beating the ape back. But King Kong grabs a hold of the construct's arm, tearing it off! And as it's torn off, Guy Gardner's willpower wanes as he falls to the ground, defeated. Oh man, that's gonna leave a mark. Guy gasps as he struggles to his feet. But he looks up just as Grodd leaps through the air, slamming him into the ground, breaking the concrete with Guy's face. Grodd just killed Guy! Kyle shouts in shock. Kong then hits the Green Robo again, shattering the construct, sending each lantern down to the ground. Finish the lanterns, Grodd orders his apes. But Aquaman leaps in their way, preparing his trident. Grodd snarls at him. Kill the fishman too. You're welcome to try, Aquaman snaps. The Legion and the League rush at each other, preparing for their final battle. Kong turns, rushing at Mecha Bat, grabbing a hold of him while Mecha Godzilla continues to pummel them. Beast Boy sees this and realizes this is right in his lane. He transforms, becoming a massive ape, punching Kong. But Supergirl easily knocks Gar out before he can really do anything. The heroes realize that the Kryptonite crown is how Grodd is controlling Supergirl, and they rush to get it away from the villain. Damian whirling the little bat mech as Jason opens fire, shooting 50 caliber rounds, knocking the crown from Grodd's head. Now free of his control, Kara and Kong seem to be in a daze. I think we've been on the wrong side, she says as she turns to the massive ape. But things are only getting worse now. Diana shouts to her friends that something else has arrived from the sea. The resurrected Skullcrawlers, controlled by the League of Assassins. Meanwhile, a streak of power flies across the sky, crashing into the ocean. It hurtles through the deep until it comes to Godzilla, where he's chained at the deep trench. The mighty Titan looks up, its eyes glowing at the newcomer. Godzilla, we have some unfinished business, Superman says, having recovered to the king of the monsters. Lois watches from the watchtower monitors as the battle rages far below. She yells over the comms system, trying to tell the Justice League that Clark has disappeared, but suddenly there's a bright light behind her, and when she turns, she sees Clark floating in space, his body glowing. In moments, he's inside and they embrace. We thought you were, she tries to say, but Clark explains that he was very weakened. Luckily, Batman and Cyborg managed to use a boom tube to transport him to the sun, which allowed his body to supercharge. Clark steps back from Lois and looks at her, finally asking what he has been trying to do since the beginning of this adventure. "Will you marry me?" he asks. Shockingly, she says yes, and the two kiss. Finally, she pulls away. "After you take care of this mess, you've missed a lot." Meanwhile, Deathstroke and Cheetah have finally found Toyman's corpse at the bottom of one of Godzilla's footprints. "That's what's left of him," Cheetah says as she motions to the squashed body, and Deathstroke looks around for a moment. "Where's the Dreamstone?" Meanwhile, in Metropolis, the battle continues to wage on. The Batazord fighting against Mecha Godzilla while Kong faces off against the League of Assassins Skullcrawlers. Nearby, Hal Jordan is kneeling over the dead body of Guy Gardner, gritting his teeth for his lost friend, while Jessica Cruz awakens Gar. "Hal, we don't have time to mourn. We need to size up again," Jon Stewart shouts, but Hal looks at Guy's hand. His ring is gone. Hal notes, finally standing and the lanterns come together. Kong slams into the King Skullcrawler, knocking him away, and then he leaps to slam into him again and again, but this time a green Kong is by his side. "I got your back, big guy!" Gar shouts, but the smaller Skullcrawlers begin to swarm them. The Batazord fires its rockets at Mecha Godzilla before more Skullcrawlers begin to swarm them. "Kara, we could use some help over here. We're not nimble enough to deal with multiple attacks," Cyborg shouts over the comms. Luckily, Kara is there slamming into the small kaiju lizards. Batazord turns back to Mecha Godzilla, but Lex is already moving, punching them hard, sending them into the ground. "Motor function down. We're offline!" Batman reports from the cockpit. As Cyborg and Flash work to get the power back online, Batman looks up to see Mecha Godzilla standing over them, a mouth laser flaring to life. "We're out of time," Batman tells his friends. But 5 minutes earlier, Superman arrived at the Legion of Doom headquarters and frees the young Billy Batson. "Superman! How?" he shouts with joy, and Superman explains it quickly as Billy apologizes for everything, hugging him. "One more piece of advice. Stick to Shazam when we're fighting, okay?" Superman says with a smile, and the two heroes leap into the sky, Superman informing Shazam that he'll meet him in Metropolis, and he dives beneath the ocean. Back in Metropolis, Mecha Godzilla's laser flares to life, but Shazam is there slamming into the robot, causing it to blast one of the Skullcrawlers. "Thanks for the assist," Batman says over the comms, as Cyborg gets the power back online and Batazord struggles to its feet. "We've got 5 targets closing and we can't give them our back," Batman says as the kaiju begin to close in on them. With the Mecha Lantern arriving, the two prepare to fight back. Meanwhile, beneath the ocean, Superman has arrived at where Godzilla is chained. The mighty Titan's eyes glow with anger, and Superman understands. The King of the Monsters was never meant to arrive in a world with metahumans. "I'm not here for a rematch. I just need you to get mad enough to follow me," Superman says as he hits the Titan before pulling off his chain, beginning to lead him away. Back at the fight, the two Kongs are still battling away, but Mecha Godzilla thunders over and knocks Gar aside. As Kong continues to struggle with the massive Skullcrawler, its tail wrapping around his throat beginning to squeeze. Kong then roars with anger as the Skullcrawler leans in close, hissing. The rest of the heroes on the ground look on in surprise as a green glow appears over Kong. The King of the Apes holds up his hand, and Guy's ring slides over his finger, creating Green Lantern Kong! Instinctively, Kong creates a green construct axe, which he uses to slice through the Skullcrawler's tail. More charge towards him, but Kong whirls on them, ready for the fight. With the rest of the heroes free to battle, they charge at Mecha Godzilla, with Wonder Woman, Shazam, Donna, and Kara grabbing its arms, pulling them apart. Batazord charges forward, grabbing Mecha Godzilla, lifting it into the air and smashing it down on their knees, breaking it in half. But the massive Skullcrawler isn't done. Not until there's a massive boom as everyone looks up to see Superman and Godzilla arriving through a boom tube. Godzilla narrowing its eyes on the massive Skullcrawler, roaring its challenge. Here we go. I knew you'd have something to say about this, Superman notes as Godzilla rushes at the Skullcrawler. Godzilla rains down on the creature until he blasts it with his atomic breath. Superman joins in using his heat vision to aid the Titan. Atomic breath and heat vision barreling down on the Skullcrawler, and it's Green Lantern Kong who leaps in with a finishing blow, slamming his axe down on the creature's skull, killing it. Kind of obviously. With the battle over, Godzilla roars in victory. The ring flies away from Kong now that it's no longer needed. Superman surveys the battle as his friends rush to see him, having thought that he was dead. He holds up the Dreamstone, explaining that Toyman was crushed beneath Godzilla's foot right as the Titans arrived on their Earth. I overheard Cheetah and Deathstroke discussing it on the way in. Superman explains. He tells them that the Dreamstone has been stuck to the bottom of Godzilla's foot this entire time. This may be the weirdest week we've ever had, Flash notes, and Batman nods in agreement. Yeah. Superman holds up the Dreamstone, wishing the Titans back to their world, the rest of the heroes gathering the Legion of Doom and placing them under arrest. Here's your so-called leader, Kara says as she holds up Lex, Superman glaring at him. Luthor, do yourself and the rest of the world a favor and stay out of my fortress. It's not a toy store, Superman tells him. Later, after the world has returned to normal, Clark and Lois sit in a park in Metropolis, with Lois admiring the engagement ring that Clark gave her. You ready to be Mrs. Lane? Clark asks her with a smile, and she puts her head on his shoulder. So ready, she says, looking out over the city.
And there you have it, all 7 issues of the Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong story. What did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if you're looking forward to the sequel coming out later this year. Anyway, I'm Dan with Comicstorian. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.